right, welcome back to the Women in Sports series brought to you by Black Sports Network. My name is Brianna DeVos. What's up, y'all? We have Brittani Burgess, who I'm so excited I get to interview, this phenomenal woman. She is a former Division I athlete. She played women's basketball. She's a current assistant coach at Holy Names University in Oakland, California, and she's a filmmaker. She's created this fantastic series called Life After. It's a docu-series basically interviewing former athletes and their experiences, their mental health struggles, everything. We'll get into it. Brittani, how are you? I am honored to interview you today, and I'm so excited, if you cannot tell.
Yeah, I'm good though. I'm good. Thanks for having me, Bri.
Absolutely. So, slight story. I've known Brittani forever. Since like high school in the DMV? Playing
probably before that.
Probably.
Doing stuff. Yeah. But
yeah. So it's been a little minute. And then we went to school together in college, and it like all came full circle. And Mike's like, he has you on the schedule. And I'm like, wait, I get to interview Brittani? And he's like, yeah, I reached out to her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Britt, I'm so proud of you because you are telling these phenomenal stories through film. And, you're putting everything into it, some of your own resources, your time, your energy, your effort. Now, on a day-to-day, what brings you joy? Like, I want to start off with something positive. This past year has been crazy. On a day-to-day, what brings you joy? What brings you joy?
I think now, like after being done with basketball, honestly, like creating, like writing a lot brings me joy. Just creating different content, especially with the film side and everything. And really, since quarantine, just kind of connecting with people through social media. At first, crazy. I thought like social media was like the devil at first, But now I'm like realizing it's pros and cons to it. It matters like how you really use it. So I've been using it to my advantage and just like really networking with people for real. So right now it's just networking and like creating content, like what brings me joy right now.
I love that. I definitely second that about social media. I thought it was just this like terrible tool that, you go down these rabbit holes and you end up just, scathed basically.
Right. Yeah.
But it's actually something that you can use. And to your point about connecting, it's been crucial. Like, how else are we going to connect with people? We're in a pandemic. We should be in the house. Most of us, we're in the house, we're maintaining, we're trying to connect, we're trying to do different things and bring it to a virtual platform so that people can enjoy what we're doing and the art forms that we get to kind of interact with. Exactly. And that kind of, that brings me to this past year. It's been a lot, like emotionally, physically, mentally, everything. How are you doing? What drives you to continue on with the work that you're doing despite the craziness that we have going on right now? How do you kind of navigate that?
Right now, just the same way, just continue creating. And, even though with this pandemic and everything, just finding ways to be safe, but also, keep the train going really, Fortunately, I did Life After, like before everything kind of got, shut down and whatnot.
Crazy,
so, yeah. So now it's all about kind of bringing the virtual to Life After, So I'm trying to figure that out in a creative way, kind of. But yeah, so just understanding that even though things are locked down, you can still, keep going. And, every day I'm getting, honestly, DMs about, people coming to me and I'm not those, like, in the professional realm of things. So I try to give them all to, people who can really help them with stuff. But I don't mind like talking to people about my experience.
For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now that brings me, I'm going to get closer because I want to hear more about this. Well, the people should hear more about this because I've known, I know you were thinking about doing this for a while and you finally kind of pulled the trigger and was like, I'm going to do this. And your docu-series is phenomenal. It's called Life After. It is, how can I even describe it? It's just so impactful because it touches on so many different aspects of the game, but the biggest being mental health and how the transition is so crucial. People think about like, oh, I just played, basketball for 15 plus years or whatever it was. And that transition post-college is so crucial for people because they're thinking about, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Where am I going to kind of dive into my passions? How am I going to unpack the experience that I just had? Which is a lot within itself. And you thought to bring this to film, which I love, because obviously everything's online, but more so people are so into visuals these days. It's like the visuals are just booming. So please tell everybody who's listening, everybody who's watching, more about your docuseries Life After and what inspired you, along your own journey of being a student athlete to create this docuseries.
Oh, I've been thinking about doing something like since like my freshman year of college. I wasn't the same athlete that I was coming in. It's like I forgot how to catch the ball and stuff like that, and I didn't know what was happening to me and whatnot. But then, you guys, like my VCU teammates, like really kind of like inspired it, because like we all had was a situation that we really was going through. So I just was constantly always thinking of like some way to tell this story. Like first it was like a book, then I was thinking about a podcast or something, but my passion is film for sure. And I haven't necessarily seen anybody do it the way I have, making it interactive, showing that this person is more than their sport. With Shekinah, I kind of put her back in that realm of, that traumatic place. But then like with Kia, you see that she's an amazing artist, her, Breonna Taylor, she's like within the, not politics, but, being a social advocate for, the death of innocent Black people by police.
Absolutely.
So it just, and then I have Kyle as well, who is a male, a Black male, who's really showing his story really. So I gave a voice to people that didn't necessarily have one, or people don't necessarily know. A lot of people say that, but they'll pick an athlete who has 10,000, 100,000 followers. Like that's
facts.
Yeah, it was already a professional, but I decided to go a different route and actually give a voice to those who don't have that big platform, and so it can relate to, you and I or other people who don't have that, blue check mark near their name. So that was the kind of route I went with it. Then my own experience, I didn't really know that I was like mentally sick or anything. And it took me to being 23 to actually like be forced to get help, and being a Black female in the sports world, you just think everything is normal. Like you think like what you're going through is normal. So you don't really want to speak up. But, yeah, there's a difference between mental toughness and then like being, a little sick, So
yeah, for sure.
And then, you and I had conversations outside of this, about it. So I think like everybody around me kind of inspired me to like do this for sure.
I love that. And I am honored that I gave you some inspiration. No, all jokes aside, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you for giving voice to the voiceless, 99% of athletes. And I'm going to say this, I've probably said this before during this series, but 99% of athletes don't go on to play professional sports. Those are the stats. And a lot of the athletes, the bulk of us, don't have blue check marks by our name, Yeah. What's crazy is how athletes are kind of brought up now in the social media space. And I'm like, dang, I wish I was low-key. I wish I was playing right now, because business is booming. You got name, image, and likeness. And there's so much kind of surrounding the prioritization of making sure athletes have that visibility on social media and everything. And I'm like, dang, we could barely get our little season pictures or whatever that are like on our player cards. They wouldn't send us any media. And these athletes, have a whole just camera crew constantly following them and documenting their lives. And so it's so important to be able to tell these stories, especially from the folks that were experiencing it. It's not always the visible battles that people talk about. Exactly. It's the mental side, because there's so much that kind of goes on behind the scenes. Now,
people do not, these fans or anybody, they don't. Idea. Right. Yeah. For sure.
No idea at all. Now, you are a coach, which I love. You are just actually getting back into the area for a bit. You coach out in California at Holy Names, and obviously you coached for a year, and now the pandemic, and you're also, side note, y'all, she's also an MBA student. Wanted to plug that in. Like, you are doing so many different phenomenal things. So student, coach, filmmaker, love it. What do you tell your own players about, that transition, about their own mental health, about their own professional life after sports, and how do you kind of lead them through that?
Yeah. So at Holy Names, we're actually a NCAA Division II team. And I think Division II probably is harder than Division I. At Division I, we actually had like the resources,
Yeah.
We had all that. But Division II, they don't really have the money, but they're expected the same expectation we are as a Division I athlete, And they have like, man, my girls have been through it, like really been through it. Some of my players, they don't have the money to live on campus. So they're living at home with their grandmother in an apartment with like 5 other family members.
Wow.
Yeah. And so like they come into practice hungry because they don't get home. They don't have no leftovers,
Yeah.
They can't sleep. They sleeping on the couch, on the floor, and the NCAA, they don't really allow us to build a relationship with the players like I feel like it's supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, I'm throwing this out there and I don't really care. I go out my way. It might be, if my girls are hungry, I'm gonna feed them. Yeah. Like, I'm not about to listen to no rule that I can't feed my girls like who are struggling, Yeah. So I go out my way and do things that aren't in the rules of the NCAA, Unfortunately, I only got to have 1 season with the girls. We're doing things virtually, but because of the pandemic, we can't really. But, I do my weekly checkups, have my conversations, but I try not to be a parent to them. I am close to their age, but I'm a coach, so I make sure they know that we're not like a family right now. Like you have that family dynamic with your teammates, not with me, because I'm gonna disappoint you every time. Like I'm here to coach you. And what I experienced throughout my 5 years in college, like coaches, they think they're building you mentally, but all they're doing is breaking you down. So I make sure I never like break that person down. Like I might, criticize basketball things, but I'm never going to come at your character, call you out your name, stuff like that. It's
basics.
I'm just a good person. Like I'm gonna coach you, I'm gonna make you better. I'm gonna tell you what you're doing wrong, but I'm never going to be like, oh, you like, I might talk trash to my girls, but I don't really mean like, hey, like negative stuff.
Absolutely.
So, like, I don't know. I feel like our generation is definitely going to, help these young players be a great person, not set them up to fail when basketball ends, like we have those gems to give them. So, and mentally, I tell my girls, when something bad happens to them, I'm like, all right, like let it sit in for a little bit, but you cannot soak in it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you feel sorry for yourselves, you won't get anything done. Like I've been there, you know what I'm saying? Like I make sure I tell them like, I'm not bullshitting you. Like I literally been there,
Right.
But yeah, I just tell them, like I tell everybody now, like turn your lowest moment into your greatest moment. And then I guarantee like you'll be straight at the end of the day for sure.
I love that. Like you said, this past year has been intense to say the least. Sure. And then you tack on just being human and being able to survive and being able to thrive through the adversity. And then you tack on, if you tack on a coach who is just feeding you negativity and all of that, it's like, what does that do to your psyche? It's like, I'm already struggling at home. I'm already, trying to balance school, trying to balance family, trying to do all these different things, right? During this time, which is already hard. Why would somebody tack on, just constantly coming for your character or just, for your overall self-worth? It's rough.
Yeah. Our experience was, it was pretty bad. But I know people had it probably worse than us, but
facts.
I think we know what not to do. I think the greatest things that we learned is what not to do. It's not necessarily what to do really, but what not to do. And I think it'll be still challenge your players mentally without messing them up mentally. It's ways around it, but these coaches also need a evaluation. You know what I'm saying? They're not always in the right mindset as well. And I think pride gets in their way, especially if they didn't have the career they wanted. It's easy for them to be a bully to some of these players, man. It's easy. It makes them feel good. And being on the other end of it now, man, I see it, and I knew as an athlete, I wasn't tripping. I see it.
It's like something's off.
Yeah,
something does not make sense.
Yeah, you see it with all the sports, like baseball, soccer, you see it everywhere. But doing this, having this experience as a college coach, just made me realize that I don't necessarily want to be a college coach. I rather have the ability to help out a kid at high school level or something.
Right.
Yeah, but I still want to be in the NCAA to change things, but not necessarily be a coach. But
more the advocacy piece.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Got you. Yes. Yeah, sure. I love it. I love it. I love your honesty, Britt, because a lot of people wouldn't hop on here and say those things, right? Yeah. Everybody wants to say the highlights of what they do, but not everybody wants to say the real deal, right? You have your days, and sometimes those are tough, but it should never be at the expense of somebody else or trying to, project how you're feeling onto someone who's very impressionable. In my own research, grad school research and everything, I kind of looked at this really closely, especially amongst Black women and the impressionable state that you're in from 17 and 22. Normally we have some super seniors that are older, but it's so impressionable. And, these coaches kind of tell you what you want to hear and get you to schools. And next thing you know, it's a nightmare. And that's kind of how life is, how it goes.
Exactly. And now I'm in Oakland, California, I'm in the city, a lot of these coaches, they recruit inner city kids, but majority of those inner city kids don't finish off at the school because they don't understand their background. It's easy to bring a kid in and not accept them for who they are. So it's just they want these kids from the hood but don't know what to do with them. So it's a sad situation, and I'm in it right now, and I'm gonna say whatever because if you fire me, it's whatever. But I gotta say the truth at the end of the day, But it's a situation that's happening at my school. They want these inner city kids because they're talented. You think they got superpowers, you know what I'm saying? But you don't know what to do with them. So it's a sad situation, and that's where I think we come in the room and, start changing it for real. So, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I think the ability to acknowledge the flaws, but then put something to action is where you're at, is what I'm kind of gathering from what you're saying in this interview. You know where the flaws are, and now you want to put some action behind what's going on to be able to change it, to be able to be more equitable, to be more just structurally sound. And you're doing that with film, which I love. And you've always been down for advocacy. Britt be out in the streets, y'all. She was protesting and everything this past summer because it's what you believe in, because that's, a part of your character. Now, speaking of advocacy and history and all of that, this interview will air during Women's History Month. And, a lot of times Black women are not necessarily celebrated enough, nor is there, because I'm definitely a proud Black woman, Black woman, y'all. but our intersectionality isn't necessarily celebrated enough as well. You know, when you think of women's history, what's something that you can kind of take away from that and celebrate in your own regard?
What you mean? Like, is there a person like I think about when I think about women history? Like what you mean?
It could be a person, it can be a place, it can be something that happened in your own life.
Yeah, man, I think the impact, like, I just actually this past weekend, I had somebody tell me like, yo, all your work is geared towards women. And I didn't even realize it really. You know, right now my page is not a lot, but it is a lot because of the production and like what I'm doing, but it's all geared for women of color, you know? And I didn't even realize that. But I mean, our stories are kind of, it's crazy, you know? And I've always unconsciously looked up to women athletes. Like Lolo Jones was like probably like one of the first women I kind of looked up, and that was on accident, you know, Lisa Leslie, stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
So the fact that, you know, BSN is doing this Women History Month, it's needed, you know, and I'm not going to say I hate it, just like Black History Month, not saying I hate it, but the fact that, you know, we have to have a month for it because it is so, it's rare in a way, you know what I'm saying? That it's a problem with that, you know, and I love that we celebrating it, but the fact that it still has to have a month that you just bring all the attention to it's part of the problem, you know. But
yes,
I mean, how else are we going to fix it though? And this is one of the ways, you know. But I think, you know, the fact that y'all are doing this and everything, it's great, and you know, especially Black women. I think, you know, superpowers. That's all I think about, you know, like. We just got superpowers, you know. Serena Williams, like, it's superpowers.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Yeah, and like actually giving a voice to those who don't have the platform, I think it's important, because for me, it's not saying it's easy to get in contact with people with bigger names, but it's easy, you know, like actually finding women who don't have that platform, like giving them a voice. I think it means more because they can relate to the 90% who aren't famous, you know? So I think there's hella stories out there, you know, that's going to, you know, impact everybody. And I think the fact that, you know, like I said, y'all doing this is great.
Sure. Absolutely. I definitely feel what you're saying. It's like, you know, these stories, Black History Month, Women's History Month, these things should be celebrated every day. Every day. Not just, let's like, it's like, let me turn the light switch on. It's like when I turn my mic on, let me just turn this on and let's, you know, boom, let's get into it. You know, let's just celebrate these beautiful intersections every day. Let's give women more of a voice. Let's acknowledge intersections and see where we can kind of go and grow, right? I think that's so important. You're spot on. Like, boom, hit that thing on the nail.
And I definitely think we're making progress, you know, with the
slowly.
Slowly, but it's there, like, especially with the WNBA, like the fact that I still don't think they get enough credit for what you know, how big of advocates they were, you know, during everything, you know. They were the front, like they were in front of everybody. Like they was
everybody.
Everybody. You know, and I feel like the men were getting more of the credit, you know, the professional men. But
literally always.
Yeah, you know, which is fine, you know what I'm saying? Like doing things for clout is dangerous anyway. So I think the women that were doing it were genuine about it.
Absolutely.
You know, they weren't getting all the attention that a lot of men were. But nah, we're slowly, it's a progress thing, you know. You just climbing the ladder constantly, you know, climbing.
Absolutely. I think women, to your point about the W, right? We saw that this is a league that is predominantly Black women that have so much to lose because we know the pay disparities. If you don't know the pay disparities and you're listening to this, the highest paid women's basketball player gets paid like what, maybe $100K, somewhere in like the early six figures. And like the minimal, like random guy on the bench that's like player 15, that's like not even touching the floor remotely with his pinky finger will get paid like $1 million. I think the veteran minimum is like $2 million. And then if like you're a rookie or something, maybe you get paid like $500K. I don't know. It's still something obscene, like this obscene amount of money that you're getting paid. In the disparities against, men and women are just kind of crazy. But they still were doing it. The intention behind it was so pure that people had no choice but to kind of jump on and be a part of it. And then obviously it kind of picked up and ran. It had legs once, they said it. And then next, the NBA is like, oh, we're going to do this. Or LeBron's like, yes, that initiative is great. But the foundation was started, with this group of predominantly Black women. And then, of course, their advocates and allies being able to put themselves out there at a time where they could literally lose their job. Thankfully, we're in different times now, but and I want your take on this as well. These athletes that are out here today, we've only been on the game for a few years. Like, we're not like super old and super washed, but it's a very different time being able to put yourself out there and being able to speak freely and bring your whole self to work or bring your whole self to practice and not feel like you're about to lose your scholarship or, lose a job opportunity or something like that. It's now on the opposite end, which I love. Now, if the organization or the sports team or, college athletics doesn't support you, they're the ones looking bad because it's like, wait, how are you going to invalidate me and my experience? And how does that, as a former athlete, Division I athlete, how does that make you feel, especially when you think about the future of the game and stuff?
I think the future is bright. It's just like, now I'm not saying I have regrets, but I do, about certain things that were said to me during my collegiate career that I didn't stand up for. Like, I had a coach at UMBC. We was going to play Morgan. She said, "Oh, I hate HBCUs," and I just and I didn't say anything. You know what I'm saying? But I knew what she was saying was wrong, or the fact that the head coach at UMBC at the time told us not to go protest when Freddie Gray died.
Wow.
So I went out to DC, not to Baltimore, just because I did have that fear of like being caught or something like that. But I'm like, why? Like, and that he fear, did, say that he would take our scholarships if we were out there,
Wow.
So I'm proud of these. We're only 2 years out, so we're not like, but I'm proud of these other student athletes who are like, taking advantage of their voice, and not allowing fear or, just fear of like something being taken away be a factor of them why they wouldn't speak up. You know what I'm saying? I still think that sometimes we were in our parents' shadow. They definitely taught us, sometimes you just gotta suck it up and go with it to get what you need, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? But I think we could have still did that and had a voice. I think the future is bright for these athletes, for real.
Oh, I love to see it. And Brittany, I am almost 4 years. I'm going on 4 years out because you did that. You did your extra year.
Oh yeah, I was 2018.
You were a superwoman and did your extra year, and I opted out of that puppy.
Oh yeah.
But I digress. Back to you. When it's all said and done with everything that you're doing with film and advocacy and activism and just being a great person like you are, when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered by?
Yeah, it's crazy you ask that because I just had an interview with Tiny Adams. She's the assistant coach over at Loyola now for the men's side. And we talked after, and because during her interview, she said she cares what people think about her. And I thought I was tripping to the fact that I cared what people thought of me. Everybody be like, F what somebody think about you, like do you, but I care.
It's harder than what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Like I care what people think about me, So the biggest thing is probably that I'm a selfless person. I do for others rather than do for myself. And I think like even with life after, I put in a lot, it's not monetized or nothing. I did that out of the kindness of my heart that I wanted to help people. Like with Shekinah, me and her still talk to this day, and she's just like, bro, that helped me so much get over the hurdles that I was hoarding for almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
So and then like I said, I'm getting DMs almost every day from like athletes from all over, don't matter color, size, gender, nothing, like just saying like, thank you. And, it means a lot. It means a lot. And like they hit an opponent, been talking to them about stuff. So it's all genuine relationships that I have now built. And, the biggest thing, I just hope that people, think of me as a caring person, honestly. Like, I think caring is like the biggest thing, just doing for others. And you hear a lot of people say that, but I think you could tell when it's genuine and when it's not, for real.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And you're doing all this fantastic work, pretty much kind of self-motivated, self-sponsored.
Yeah.
Like, you are doing this work and putting, all your resources in it and still delivering something that is phenomenal. And, that is what it's all about. So like I said, like I will always continue to say, I'm so proud of you and all the work that you are doing.
Proud of you the most.
Thanks, girl. Thanks, girl. Way, oh man, have we ever? We could be on this thing forever. But I want to end our interview with some quick fire questions, Brittani.
Let's get it.
These are this or that formatted questions, basically about, everything that we've kind of talked about. And you have to answer in one sentence or one word or less. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're good?
Yeah.
East Coast or West Coast?
East.
Yes. Energy. Favorite place you have traveled?
Always Hawaii. Always.
That was so clutch. That trip was so clutch. Favorite coaching moment?
My first win.
Oh, wow. The first win. What's the first thing you're doing after COVID is over? Like, when we can actually go outside, no masks on, and just like be breathing free with the people?
Man, I don't know, because everything, dang, only a sentence, right? Man, movies. Go to the movie theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Yo, everybody's been saying vacation, which is so crazy. Everybody's been saying like, yo, I'm bussing out. I'm gone to the streets. I'm in vacation, but you say the movies. Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Cool. What have you been watching virtual? What have you been watching on Netflix, like binging? What have you been binging?
Outcry. It's now on Netflix. It's on Prime. Yeah.
Okay.
I speak more than a sentence.
Yes, you can plug that. We all in the house right now. You can plug that. What's it about?
Just about
I'm intrigued.
Just high school football player who was falsely accused of child molestation. Like, he was like one of the top of his. Yeah. He finally got out of jail. He's actually our age. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like a 6 episodes, like an hour
docuseries.
Yeah, that joint was fire.
That sounds like it's intense.
Yeah, very intense. Just very intense.
For sure. What's the greatest advice that you've ever been given?
Turning my lowest moment into my greatest.
I love that. Yeah. And that will conclude our interview. Thank you so much, Brittani, for joining us at the Black Sports Network, doing this for the Women in Sports series. Thank you so much. You're doing phenomenal work. Keep it up. We're going to keep celebrating you. And I can't wait for everyone to see this interview, because you just dropped some gold during this time. You dropped some gold.
I appreciate you, having me on here. I think you're doing a great thing. I think this is like natural for you.
Thanks, Britt.
Definitely your vibe, my guy.
Oh, thanks, Britt. And that is all we have. I'm Brianna DeBose, and we will be back next for our next person for the series. So thanks again. Woo!
Yeah.